Hey guys, it's Maymay, and I promised you I would show you how to make this card. So this is what we're making today. There's the front, and this is the inside, our little angel choir. And when I showed this the first time, so many of you said you wanted to see how I did it. So I'm going to show you how to do your little pop-up angels and make this card. So let's get started. I think I'll start with the front first. Now, I did round the corners, so I'm going to go ahead and round those corners just to get that done. This is just a piece that is 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm using my gingham because I can't get enough of it. I use it so much. So there's that. And let's go ahead and stamp our little flying angel there. So she's going to live about here. So let's do this. Now, I'm stamping her in my Spectre Noir Finesse ink because I'm going to be coloring her. And this one is good for alcohol markers. So I'm going to stamp her in this. And these ink pads, when you get them, you'll know what I'm talking about. You have to work this around to get the ink all over it because the ink pad itself is a little bit misshapen in the middle. So as long as you work it around, you'll get the ink everywhere. All right, and then I'm going to place this about here. Now be careful when you're working your ink around. See how I got ink in that solid area there? I don't want to press right there, but I do want to make sure I get all the other images pressed, or the other sections pressed really well. So just sit that in there and let that transfer. And there she is, our little angel. And then I also need to stamp the little houses along the bottom. So just going to ink these little guys up and do the same thing here. And I did them in 2 different places on my first card. I did one kind of here, coming from one side. Get that one done. I messed my stamping up. I tried to fix it and it didn't work. So I'm going to flip this over and do the other side. This is my life lately. You know why it is? Because I'm in a hurry. I got to slow down. You need to slow down and enjoy the process. So let's do it again. I'll go back and do my angel in a second. So let's go ahead and get this guy done. And I'm going to slow down and get this done. All right. So I'm going to put him kind of down to the bottom like so. Press it around really good. That's what I didn't do a while ago. And I left a big gap in the middle because I didn't press it. So there we go. And now I'm going to put it a little higher also. And I'm going to let this be my little scene here on the front. And then a little bit higher over here. Press really well. Perfect. Okay. Taking your time. Slowing down, Maymay. That's what you need to do. All right. And then I'm going to ink up my angel again. And this time I'll put that angel up there where she was the first time. So right in this area. Perfect. Okay. Now what I need to do is her wing. And I'm using the larger wing on the set. There's 2 little wings, but I'm going to use the larger one. And the cool thing about this wing is you don't really have to mask it off. It's going to stamp over her hair, but it'll be fine because when you color it, you'll color the wing a different color than her hair, and it'll work just perfect. So I'm going to stamp her little wing about right there. And so even though that's laying over her hair, when we color it, it'll look perfect. Okay, so that is my front scene. All I need to do now is add my stars and my music notes around the edges. So what I'm going to do, and my sentiment. So I'm going to do that with my VersaFine because I like how this looks. And since I'm not coloring the stars or the music notes, I can do that. Because I'm coloring with alcohol markers, I didn't want to use this ink on the other images. So I'm going to start with my star. And I like to stamp on and off the page. So I'm going to let one go off the page up there. And then I'm going to stamp a whole one on the page. And I'm just going to go around and stamp this little guy around. Now remember, take your time. Don't do what I do. Take your time and let that get on there good. I have a habit of rushing everything lately. There's that one. Let me see if I can add a few more. And you might even want to do this and then add your musical notes and add more stars if you need them. So I'm going to go to my musical notes. Again, I'm not coloring these, so I'm doing them in my Onyx Black. Perfect. I'm going to call that there on the front. And now I need to put my sentiment here, which is Hark the Herald Angels Sing. And I'm using my VersaFine. And that's going to go right here. Perfect. Okay, so this is ready to color when I get to it. So I'm going to move that aside for now. And then I'm going to work on the angels. So I've put a little scrap of paper into my Misty, and I'm going to stamp my little angels using the Misty. I find that sometimes I need to go back and do this one twice with this ink that I'm using, the Finesse ink. Sometimes I need to. So I thought I'd go ahead and put this in the Misty. I'll show you what I mean. It's pretty fine detail, and it can get a little patchy in places. So see right there, I'm going to go back and do her again. That's why I'm using the Misty this time. Better, much better. Okay, so she'll be ready to color. So I just need 5 of these girls, so I'm going to run through and stamp them. So here's my 5 little angel girls, and now it is time to color them. And this is where you get to have fun. I like to first do their hair, and I want them to all have different hair color. So I'm going to have a redhead, I'm going to have a blonde, and I'm using a pretty bright yellow because I want her to be to be obviously blonde. I'm going to have a brunette here. I'm going to do a darker brown. Well, we'll do a lighter brown because that is my darker brown. So I'm going to do one that has a lighter, more ashy toned brown. And let's do another yellow, a very pale yellow. And let's see how these go. I just like to do their hair color first. I think it's neat to have them all to have a different hair color. So I'm just going to run through and do that. And I'm not shading or anything. I'm going to let their hair, I'm going to let the shading of the stamp set do their hair color for me. So I don't have to go in and do anything but color their hair. Also, I'm going to be cutting these guys out exactly. I say guys, these gals. I'm going to be cutting them out exactly. So I'm not stressed about getting out of the lines on the outside of the image. I'm just trying to, do a good job on the inside. But I'm not a very good colorist. And you'll see how this works out. It works out really great at the end. Now I'm going to go through and do their little skin tone. And the color I'm using is called Sweet Vanilla. It works really well for this. I'm just going to run through and do their faces. They have a little bit of an ear, but I kind of covered it with my hair color, so it'll be all right. I'm going to do their faces and their hands really quick. I'm going to take this super, super light gray color called Soft Taupe, and I'm going to do a little gray shadowing right in here where their little hairline is. I did this on my other ones as well, and I really liked how it looked, just to give a little bit of a shadow between the hair and their face to look like there's a little bit of light landing on them. It's very, very faint, but I don't know. I'm doing it, and I thought, I need a little shadow right there, and it's not much, but just enough. Now I'm going to take a little pink. This color is called, no name on this one, 449. And I'm just going to rub the tiniest little bit here on their cheeks. I can come back and rub this out with that, the skin tone color that I used. I'll show you what I mean by that. If you don't want these to be these perfect little circles, which I think are really, really cute, by the way, these little perfect circles. Kind of low on their little faces. But I can come back and blend it together. So if I come back with the Sweet Vanilla color, I can just run around those cheeks, just little circles, and it'll help to blend them out. They already blend out a little bit because you're putting alcohol on top of alcohol, so it kind of bleeds a little bit. But this just helps to soften them if you don't like them to be quite so specific. All right, now I'm going to do their wings. And I wanted all their wings the same color. And I chose 2 shades on their wings. I did a bright yellow at the bottom and then a paler, well, look, see this dark kind of golden? We'll do that at the bottom. We'll do the paler at the top. So here's what I did. I went to the bottom of each one. I'm doing them the same way. And I'm doing this golden color at the bottom of the wing. Just like that, like a line across the bottom. Again, don't worry about getting a line off the page. It won't matter. And then I'm going to come back with the second color, which is number 403, and do the top. And just whatever that blends like is what I got. I didn't spend any time just a little bit there so I get the 2 shades on the wing. All right, so I'm gonna do that on all of them. Perfect. Okay, I also did all of their little hearts the same color. So I'm gonna run through and do the little hearts real quick. And it's really, really touchy when you're using a red because reds can bleed. So I just kind of pat it until the heart's covered. I don't rub this marker because it will really get away from you if you're not careful. Now for the fun part, you get to play fashion plates or fashion designer. I'm going to pick some of my favorite colors for their dresses. I wasn't really picky about their dresses. I just kind of went through and picked shades. And I kind of picked 2 shades. I'll show you what I'm talking about. First, I'm going to pick the colors. I'm going to do a blue and a pink and a purple. And let's do a green. Let's see, which green do I want? Let's do this green. And then let's do this corally color. All right. So I'm picking the main shade I want the dress to be and then a complementary shade. So these 2 look good to me. Okay. So those are complementary of each other. And then for the purple, I'm going to go darker. So I've got a lighter and a darker. For this green, I'm going to go lighter and darker. For this blue, I'm going to do lighter and darker. And then for the pink, let's do also lighter and darker. Okay, so then what I did, remember, I'm not a colorist. Here's what I did. I took my lighter shade and I put it down first. So this is my lighter shade of the pink that I chose. I'm just going to color her whole little dress in it. Remember, I'm not worried about staying in the lines. I'm going to be cutting her out anyway. Okay, so there's her lighter shade of pink. And then with her darker shade, I just ran around the edges just slightly and just kind of pulled that up into the dress. And anywhere along the edges, a little bit on her sleeve, and then I just kind of streaked it up into the dress, just like that. And to give her a little light in the middle, I went back to my lighter color, and I just pushed some of that out with the lighter color. You can even take your blending marker, take your blender, and come right here to the middle and push some of this out to give her some light shining on her dress. This is literally how I did mine. See how that light kind of streaks like that? It looks really cute when they're finished. So there's one. Let's keep going. I've changed my greens. I didn't like how dark that was, so I'm going to change my greens to these colors. Much better. See how rough some of them look? Look at that purple one. Wait till it's done. Don't panic. Now let's cut them out. There they are. Look how cute they are. Now I'm going to take some Distress ink, and instead of using my marker to go around the edge to kind of clean up my fussy cutting, I'm going to Distress ink the edges. They just think it'll look good on the craft colored paper. So just running around and doing this. While I got my distress ink out, I'm going to go ahead and do the front of the card like I did too. Do you see how on the front of my card I have like the darker shade underneath? Let me show you how I did that. So I took my distress ink and I just used my little blending tool and came underneath that Hillside and just kind of circled it on there after I had already inked. I didn't really stress about that. Even after I'd already put the sentiment on, I just wanted to darken this bottom up where the Hillside lived. So I did it like this. And I inked all of the edges on this one. I also used a little brown marker on the Hillside, just right here where the grass is drawn in the stamp set. I just kind of hit those areas with a little bit of brown. And I colored my little sands. On the tops of the little houses, I took my white jelly roll pen, and in any of the openings, I added a little bit of snow there. I just thought it kind of popped on the beige paper and with all the little coloring that we did. And I just like to do the little tops in the white. I put a little gray underneath her to kind of make her pop, just around the edges of her to kind of lift her off the page. Just a little line around her. Did her little face and hands, her wing, and then her hair. Now we need to build the inside of the card. So as you can see on the inside, I have my little angels on a hillside. So let me do the hillside first. So this piece is 1.5 inches by 5.5 inches. And once I put my little pop-up piece in, this first one, this tallest one, that's when I'll put the little hillside in. So let's go to my card base, which is here. And I need to stamp it, but I'm going to stamp it afterwards. I'm taking a risk. That's what I did last time too. Okay, so to make my pop-ups, I have these little strips, okay? This guy is 1/2 inch by 5 inches. This guy is 1/2 inch by 2 3/4, and then this one is 1/2 inch by 2 1/2. And we're gonna score those, and I'll show you where. So our first little one, or the longest one, is gonna get scored every inch. So I'm gonna grab my scoring tool, and I'm gonna score it at 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, and 4 inches. All right, so there's my first one, every inch. The next ones are not this one. Let's do the 2.5 inch one is gonna get scored at every 1/2 inch. So 1/2 inch there, 1/2 inch there, there, and there. This one is a little trickier, all right? So this one, I'm gonna score it at 1/4 inch on the end. So I'm just coming in 1/4 inch from the inside, all right? Then down here, I'm going to score it at 1 inch and 1/4 inch. And then right down here, I'm going to score it at 2 1/4. So that one's a little confusing, but let me go back and show you this way. So you'll score it at 1 inch, 1 1/4, 2 1/4, and then at 2 1/2. That way it'll be easier for you. So that's the way I scored this guy. I work backwards. Can you tell? I like work my things to make it happen instead of, you know, when you're making a pattern, you kind of work back to it. So that's how that happens. All right, so now we're going to make a box. So I'm going to put a little glue here on one of our little scored flaps, and I'm going to bring another one over and just create a little 1-inch box. That's how I made my riser. So there's my first one. Now let's do the one that we scored every 1/2 inch. You're going to do the same thing. You're just going to make a little box. So we'll put glue on one little flap and then fold this over and make the other one. And this one is a little different. You're still making a box, fold it on all your score lines, just like you did the other one, but your box won't be square. It'll be a rectangle. And then you're going to glue this little flap to this guy, just like so. You just want to make sure he's pretty square. So you can be able to flatten him down like this. That's what you want to be able to do so he can flatten in the card. All right, so there's our little squares. All right, now we need to lay out our angels. I'm going to look at my original card and see how I laid those out. All right, it looks as though I have one angel on this side, pretty close to the edge, one here on a pop-up, one here, and then a pop-up and a pop-up. So I'm going to start with my first big pop-up, okay? And what I need to do is I need to take one flap, actually 2 flaps, so half of the box, okay, needs to get glued on the score line. So I'm just going to put it here and lay it on that score line and just glue that straight down. I'm going to move these other way so you'll see what I just did. So I glued 2 sides of my box to my card, and I'm going to do this. Now you can make pop-up cards by making slices in the cards, but I was making this one kind of as I go, and that's how I ended up doing it. So I thought I would just show y'all the way I did it. So once I have that glued in like that, I'm going to flatten it down. And I might have to retrain that paper. It seems to be doing fine, but that's how I did it. Now, before I did the rest of them, I did my hillside because I want my hillside to go underneath there. So I took my brown paper and I started to tear. And I had to make it thin enough to live underneath inside of that little pop-up, but I still wanted it to be hillside on the other end. So I just tore it, slid it in there, and made sure it would live there. It's still a little too tall, so I'm just going to come right here and take a little more out, and that should be all I need to take out. And then just push it through and make sure it'll fit. And see how that'll fit just perfect around that little pop-up? That's how I did that. Now let's glue this on. The other thing I did was I did not glue this one all the way to the top. I left the top edge free of glue so I could tuck my little angels in when I got to that point. So I didn't put glue at the top. I'm going to slide this in and glue it down. And now we can put our other risers on. So to your 1-inch square, I'm going to put it about right here. I just eyeballed all of this, and I'm doing it the same way. You're going to glue down 2 sides, the top side and the bottom side. And then I'm going to lay this flat and just put this about right here, just making sure I've got it on the score line so it'll fold. So you can see how that'll fold up. That's what you want to make sure of. Get that glued down really good. And then your last one just needs to get glued really to the back side because it'll still fold for you when you put it down. So you really don't have to glue that little bottom, just the back. And this is the riser that's going to hold our little girl on the end. So just put that one on there like so. And as long as your angels will hide your risers, that's really all you need to do. All right, let's do a practice run and close this guy down. There we go. Okay, so now we can place our little angels. I tell you what I'm going to do. I think I'll go ahead and stamp real quick before I place my angels. So let's do our stars and musical notes around the edges. And while I'm at this part, I'm going to go ahead and ink all of my edges. Okay, it's time to put our angels on. So I'm going to start with my first one that's on the far side of the heel. And this little girl will get glued down, tucked underneath my little hillside. So I'm just going to tuck her in there. And that's why I did not glue that edge down. So she gets tucked in there. Then my second little girl will live on this riser. And I think I'll use this green. It's pretty. Put her on that little riser right there. Then my next little girl is going to go under the heel right here. So I just want to lift that up a little bit. Make sure she'll go under there and then glue her down. Then my next one will go right down here. They're so cute. This little angel choir just comes together as soon as you start gluing them on. This is the fun part. So just a little glue right there for her, her stick. And then my other little girl goes right here. And I just wanted to make sure I had her in the card and covering my little riser. That's all we had to do there. So that is my little angel choir. Now I need to make the little hillside that goes here. So for the little hillsides, all I did was I went back to my little scene from the stamp set and I stamped one kind of low on a piece of scrap paper just so I'd have enough room to cut this little hillside out. And I did one a little bit higher on the scrap paper, like so. And then I sort of fussy cutted it. I'll show you what I mean. So let's start down here. I just kind of went around, almost fussy cutting, but more like bubble cutting around the edge of the little hillside because I'm going to ink it, so all that'll kind of hide anyway. So I just ran around the little houses, cut them out like this. And when I got to the end, I did kind of a little hillside with the scissors. So when I got down here to the end, I just kind of took it out and down. Okay, so that's one hillside. And then I did the same thing here. All right, back to our distress ink. I've got it laying over here. I've been using it a lot today on this card. So I'm going to take my distress ink and I'm inking this guy around like I did on the front. Now to put these guys on, I place them here and there. That one's a little too tall. I'm going to trim that one down a little bit because it's covering up a little too much of my little angel girl. There we go. All right, so I just placed this in and I wanted it to line up on one edge, and then I'm going to actually glue it to that little angel right there. And that'll help it to run up and down on my card, help it to close. That's the only place I glued it, was right to that little angel and sticking that to her. And I want to make sure that it'll close. So I'm going to close this down. So there we go. We got that one closed. And then I'm going to put this one to my little front angel. So it'll live in the front like that. So I put a little glue on her and just glue it right to it. Go ahead and make sure it'll close. There we go. And that is the inside of the card. Isn't that adorable? I've got a little bit of glue right there. I don't know how I did that. I got it from somewhere. I'm clean that little glue off a little bit. There we go. So there is the inside of our card. Now we just need to put our front piece on. And I used dimension on my last one. Look, you can see where I messed up. I used dimension, a dimensional foam on my last one, but the card is a little thick. So if you were going to mail it, I would just glue this front piece straight down like this, because when you put your little risers in, it gets a little thick in there. And that is my little pop-up angel scene card. And I'm gonna bring my first one in because I always feel like my seconds are never as good as the first. My first ones always seem to look better to me. So here's my first one. I don't know why that is. It's just me. But there you go. That is how you make the little angel pop-up card. I hope you enjoyed that one. It is a Make a Fuss card. It's not a quick one. I turned the camera on and let it roll so I could see how long this took. And I'm at 1 hour and 2 minutes so far. So this one took 1 hour and 2 minutes. Not bad for a whole card to take 1 hour. Not bad at all. So there you go, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I will talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.